Am I the asshole for being disgusted and just saying, okay, when my fiance broke up with me? Original post. So I don't know, man. I am 28 and have been with my fiance, Alex, 34, since 2020. We met at a friend's party, hit it off, and have had been together ever since. He finished his doctorate in economics just last year. Since then, he has been working at the uni. I have my master's in media sciences and decided to start working instead of going for a PhD. Okay, so the problem is that Alex broke up with me last Monday. It was literally so surreal and honestly just weird. For the past few months, he'd been acting strange. He was making demands and then dropping them immediately. In a few examples, he told me we're going to paint our walls back from dark green to white. When I asked why, he just said, for F's sake, forget it, and never brought it up again, even when I asked. Another time, he came home and got mad because I was sitting on the couch with my head covered in a blanket. I had cramps. He was upset because I was just sitting there watching Netflix. Mind you, the house was spotless. When I tried to talk about it, he said, forget it. It's not a big deal. This kind of thing became common. Every time I tried to communicate, tried to figure out what was going on, whether it was something I did or maybe he was just stressed at work, he would just say everything was fine, but he was clearly seething with rage. I didn't even have to do anything. He would find something to complain about: the apartment clothes, me, work, etc. So I gave him space, which apparently was also wrong. I told him I was going to help my parents with repairs for a few days, and somehow that was also wrong because he wanted to renovate the apartment too. Then on Monday, I got a text saying we needed to talk. I knew what was coming, and after the last few months, I had made peace with it. When I came home, he was sitting on the couch. He didn't even wait for me to take off my jacket before saying, I want to break up. Then the verbal diarrhea started. He told me he resented me, first because I didn't pursue my academic career further, even though I was capable, and he didn't want to upset me at the time. Then when I started making more money, since he didn't make much as a PhD student, he felt like I should have the last word financially, and he hated it. Mind you, I never said anything like it's my money, so I have the final say. That's a rule he imposed on himself, and he hated it. He said he hated our paint scheme, the couch, and even our crockpot. Then he told me he had rejected a better PhD program to stay here because I had already started my job by the time he got the acceptance letters. Only he never told me he had even applied overseas. He said a few months ago he checked in with a friend who's in that program, saw how they were thriving, and decided I ruined his life. He said I had too much control over his life and that he hated the idea that I could just decide not to pay for things and F him over. I honestly don't even know what that means. He also said he hated that all his friends loved me and didn't let him vent about me. Then he said again, I'm done. I was floored. I had already made peace with the idea that we were ending and it hurt, but after that rant, I was just disgusted. I looked at him, probably with a disgusted expression, and said, okay, he lost it. He said this is exactly what he meant, that it was horrible. We had been together for 4 years and all I had to say was okay to our breakup, and I just asked if he wanted to stay here while he figured out where to go. He said, typical, of course you're holding the apartment over me, and started ranting again, so I just left. I told my parents and they're also confused. My dad suggested I reach out to our landlord and explain the situation to see what options I have. I can keep paying the rent, no problem myself. He covered the utilities and subscriptions. Just to reiterate, I never had a problem with this. I saw that he was chasing his dream, and that was more important to me than a 50/50 financial split. I make good money and am happy at my job. I never saw it as slaving away. I always had the mentality that my money was our money because we were building a life together. Of course, I had my own savings and fun money, but I honestly never cared. As long as I felt he was working towards something and wasn't taking advantage of me, I was fine with it, more than fine. Alex is still mad. He's going between texting me like a robot about the logistics of the split to being a seething asshole complaining about everything. I'm not even hurt anymore. I just feel nauseated by him at this point. I don't know. Should I have reacted differently? Eat it. Thank you for all your opinions. It was nice to get this off my chest. LL, just to clarify. I don't feel like a victim. I feel like something happened and my relationship just turned bad. He behaved like an asshole, but that is the extent of it. Very clearly, something is going on, but he doesn't want me to be part of whatever it is, and I have to respect that. Now I just have to detangle myself if legally from him, and after that, I'll just be left alone with my ugly green wall color. I think I might also adopt a cat as my ex was really allergic. Comments OP replies before reading the update. Dan, 1987 Tay. Dude basically hates himself for decisions he took without ever consulting you. He chose his comforts, but now since others seem in a better position, he is venting on you and making you the culprit. Not the asshole, but your man has a little brain and doesn't know what to do with it. OP, I would have supported him if he wanted to move away. I don't know if we would have stayed together because LDRs are hard, but I would have been 100% supportive. Estable, I suspect he was afraid or had other reasons to turn down that PhD, or maybe never even applied but believes he did, but chooses to blame you rather than acknowledge that. Hasty Koala, he probably chose this one because she would be there to pay the bills. It's more stable. Soft requirement 461. I've been with a man like that. They want drama. They want toxicity. They will thup your life out of pure insecurity and hate. You dodged a massive bullet. I'm sorry this happened. You deserve better. Wish you the best. OOP, then I hope he meets the telenovela star of his dreams. I prefer my boring happy life. Random throwaway, not the asshole. Dude basically said he hates you and everything about you. What are you supposed to do? Beg for his love when you can find someone who give it to you readily. Nah, sorry this happened and that you were blindsided, but this will be a good thing in the long run. On to the next. FWIW, he sounds jealous, insecure, and emotionally stunted. If what you've written is how things played out, then you dodged a huge bullet. OOP, he was basically doing his own renditions of 10 things I hate about you. I don't know, I mean, he wants to break up with me. Why would I plead? It is done. Now, for the updates. Update 1. To start, Alex moved out pretty quickly after the breakup. He has been staying with a friend, and we sorted out everything like mail, subscriptions, and the lease. I'm also in the process of adopting a cat. Her name is Luna, but I have been thinking about changing it since my family already has 2 pets named Luna, Amun, and Kamar. She is still at her foster home for now, but I have visited her a few times, and I already adore her. She is a scrappy little tabby who follows her foster mom around like a shadow, and I can't wait for her to move in during the first week of December. I've already gotten her bowls, toys, and a bed by the window ready. Now on to what happened. Last week, I was out showing someone around the city. He is the son of my parents' friends who recently moved here for work. My parents asked me to help him get familiar with the area, so I agreed. It was nothing special, just walking around, grabbing coffee and pointing out useful spots in the city. Apparently, Alex saw us. I didn't even realize he was there, but later that night, I started getting texts from an unknown number. I guess he got a new number since I blocked his old one. The texts were just weird. He accused me of flaunting my new relationship in public, said I must have been seeing this guy before we broke up, and told me that everything he suspected about me was true. I didn't respond. I wasn't going to entertain his paranoia. The messages kept coming though. They went from angry to desperate, with him saying things like, "At least admit you were lying to me." And was anything about us even real? It was exhausting and honestly a little scary to see how quickly he spiraled. For the record, this guy isn't my boyfriend. He's not even someone I'm interested in. He's just the son of family friends who needed help settling into the city. The whole thing was completely innocent, but Alex has twisted it into some kind of betrayal in his head. What gets me is how little Alex seems to know me. I'm not the type of person to jump into a relationship so soon after everything that happened. Even if I were, it wouldn't be any of his business. We are done. I've made that clear. After I didn't respond to his text, Alex started calling. I didn't pick up, but the voicemails were a mix of angry rants and desperate pleas. I ended up blocking his new number too. It feels ridiculous that I have to keep doing this, but I guess this is where we are now. Then this weekend, I went out to a bar with my friends. A few hours in, guess who walked in? Alex. I don't know if it was a coincidence or if he followed me there, but as soon as he spotted me, he came straight over. He was clearly upset, asking to talk, and I told him no. My friend stepped in, and thankfully he left without causing a scene, but it ruined my night. It felt like I couldn't escape him, no matter where I went or what I did. When I got home later that night, I was completely drained. I had just started to relax when I heard a knock on my door. It was Alex standing there in tears. He started crying, saying he missed me, that he didn't understand why I was doing this to him, and that he didn't know how to move on. It was like all the anger from earlier had been replaced with this desperate sadness. I didn't let him in. I told him he needed to leave, and if he didn't, I would call someone to make him leave. He begged me to listen, but I just closed the door. I spent the rest of the night feeling shaken and honestly a little scared. I don't know what he's going through. I wrote to his best friend about the situation, but pleaded to talk to him. He said he would. I'm seriously considering getting a new phone number and possibly even talking to someone about how to handle this legally if it keeps happening. It feels unfair that I have to go to these lengths just to have some peace, but I don't see another option. Comments OP replies, Caspian 4136. I think you should keep track of every call, text and VM, and collect a paper trail in case you need to go the legal route. Maybe get an additional lock on your door just in case. He's obviously unstable and has been for a while. Just focus on yourself and your new chapter in life. Don't feed into his crap. Bibliophile_W_coffee. Check for a tracking device and check all your apps and settings to make sure you aren't accidentally sharing your location with anyone. Filirero. Yeah, him coincidentally running into her twice while she's out seems not at all coincidental. Another typical comment. Once is a coincidence, twice is a pattern. I can't imagine that he just happened to see you when you were out in the city twice. Definitely get prepared in case you need to file a restraining order and take legal action. Be sure to practice good safety like locking doors and windows, maybe even preemptively tell whoever works the front desk or whatever at work to not let him in if he comes to your workplace. Hopefully over time you will come to see that this relationship is completely over and he will stop bothering you. New update 2 days later. Thanks for the concern and support I've received. I'm fine, really. A lot of people suggested things like getting a restraining order, but I just want to clarify that it's not as simple as walking into an office and asking for one. The process involves proving there's an immediate danger to your safety, providing evidence like texts, calls, or witnesses, and then attending court to get approval. It's not something you can do lightly or without solid proof. And no, I'm obviously not getting a gun, and I've also seen people diagnosing Alex with various mental health issues, and I want to ask everyone to stop. Yes, something is clearly wrong, but I'm not a doctor, and neither are most of you. It's not fair or helpful to label him with something like bipolar disorder or anything else without real expertise. For what it's worth, I don't actually feel like I'm in danger. In the past month, these were the only 3 incidents that happened, and I don't think he's actively stalking me so much as he just knew my patterns. The bar we were at is my favorite spot, and it was a party of one of my closest friends, so it makes sense that he might have guessed I'd be there. When he shows up at my apartment, he knows what time I usually get home. The city tour is the only thing that might have been more intentional, but it could also have been a coincidence that triggered everything. Anyway, this is the end of it. Yesterday, Alex came over with his mom and one of his friends. At first, I didn't want to let him in, but he promised me that this would be the last time I ever saw him. I agreed, mostly because his mom and friend were there, and I figured it would be more awkward to argue on my doorstep. When we sat down, Alex admitted that he was going through a crisis. He told me he was mad at me, but he didn't know why. He said he doesn't like me, that I annoy him, but that he weirdly still loves me, which is why he went crazy when he saw me with someone else. He assured me there wasn't anyone else on his end either. He said he felt like he was going insane. He talked about how he feels judged for being older and not being able to give me the life he thinks I deserve. He said he hates his colleagues, hates his job, hates everything right now, and that everyone and everything annoys him. He told me he feels old and like he should want kids at this point in his life, but he doesn't, and that thought terrifies him. He said he just wants to be alone and not talk to anyone for a while. I didn't say much. I mostly just nodded because I didn't know what to say. After he was done, he told me he was leaving. He's on some kind of mental health leave from work, and he said he's leaving the country on Sunday. He's going to South America to spend time in nature and find himself. He thanked me for everything and said he was sorry for how he acted. Then he just got up, grabbed the few things he had left at my place, and walked out. His mom was inconsolable. She kept apologizing to me over and over, saying how embarrassed she was by his behavior. I told her it was okay and that she didn't need to apologize to him. She cried a lot, and his friend ended up driving her home after Alex left. I don't really know how I feel about all of this. Part of me is relieved that it's over. Part of me feels sad for him because he clearly doesn't know how to deal with everything he's feeling. Mostly though, I just feel tired. I'm glad he's taking steps to figure himself out, but it's not my responsibility anymore. Comments OP Replies. Mocha_Lats. Be glad he took accountability and apologized along with realizing he was acting crazy and taking steps to address it and get away from you. That's enough. Feel relieved, feel sad, grieve the loss of him and the relationship, and enjoy the time alone now. It's okay to have mixed feelings about it. It's okay to be happy one day and sad the next. Thank you for the update and take care of yourself. Cats don't have names. Instead of going to South America to find himself, he should find himself a therapist. No_middle_3193. Probably going to South America to run away from himself. Either way, it's not an OP problem anymore. Not the Ashel. Story 2. My 24 female boyfriend, 26 male of 1.5 years, just scheduled and paid for a cosmetic medical procedure for my lady regions without my knowledge or consent. What now? Original post. Hello, everyone. My boyfriend and I have been together for a year and a half. Overall, things are good. Occasionally, he has been overbearing, but he's working on it and has made great strides of improvement. We've lived together for around 6 months. The background, I have a mole on the outside of my vagina. It's about the size of a pencil eraser. It's never been a problem for me, and I don't mind it. It's hidden in even the skimpiest of bikini bottoms, doesn't hurt or get in the way of anything, isn't lumpy, doesn't grow any weird hair, etc. It's just a harmless little bump on the side of my vulva that I've had since I was born. Even when I'm entirely naked, it isn't visible unless my legs are spread. So it's the kind of thing only me and my sex partners have ever seen. I've had an inkling that my boyfriend has never been a fan of this mole, but he won't admit that. Sometimes he'll absentmindedly rub it between his fingers with his nose crinkled, like an expression just short of disgust. But when I asked him about it 2 different times, he insisted the not quite disgusted facial expression was unrelated. I assumed that he didn't like it, but knew it was none of his business or concern and probably didn't want to say it because he didn't want to sound rude. He asked me once if I've ever thought about removing it, to which I replied that it's always been a part of me and I wasn't interested in removing it. The problem, my birthday was a few weeks ago. I've been getting Brazilian waxes since I was a teenager. It's just my personal preference. As a birthday present, my boyfriend prepaid for almost a year's worth of waxes at the med spa I've always gone to. This seemed like a great gift, useful, thoughtful, and saved me a ton of money. This med spa does a variety of other services as well as waxing. They do tattoo removal, laser hair removal, makeup tattoos, Botox, etc. I've had a standing appointment there every 3 weeks for years. This morning I went to my regular appointment. My waxer, who I've known for years, gushed about how kind of my boyfriend it was to call in for my services, and we went about the wax as normal. There's an oil she uses that helps to soothe the skin after the wax, and I was waiting for that to soak in when she brought out a wand that I was not familiar with. I asked her what it was for, and she said, the freezing. I assumed she was prepping for her next client and stayed on the table. Then she began wiping the oil off and applied a cream directly over my mole. At this point, I sat up and asked her what she was doing. Oh, this cream helps to numb the area before I freeze the mole. Then we'll cut it off and you'll just need a stitch or two and a bandage and then you'll be ready to go. We fumbled through the awkward conversation that followed, and the bottom line is that my boyfriend had paid for my mole to be removed as well, $200, without telling me. The receptionist who books the appointments assumed that I knew, and I signed a yearly waiver for all services from them, so it basically just slipped in. The receptionist said that my boyfriend asked about the process over the phone, so he was aware that this procedure involved cutting something off my body and would involve anesthetic and stitches. Guys, I'm furious and cannot tell if my reaction is justified or if I'm seeing red for no real reason. This feels like such a breach of my personal boundaries, not to mention disrespectful of my bodily autonomy. I know it's small, but it's plastic surgery. There is no medical backing to having this mole removed. It would be entirely cosmetic. I obviously didn't go forward with the procedure, and now I'm struggling with whether my anger is appropriate to the situation. I have not talked to him about this yet. It happened this morning, and I will be seeing him this evening when I get home from work. Right now, I'm thinking of breaking up with him, but feel like that may be an overreaction and can't tell if my judgment is clouded. What would be an appropriate way to address this situation? Comments OP replies before reading the update. Charles Abub. Okay, everyone has the whole livid at him and dump him covered, and I'm just going to talk about moles. Getting moles removed is a big deal and something that should only ever be talked about by actual medical doctors and dermatologists. Getting something cut off at a spa by your waxer is terrifying to me. Who is going to stitch you up? The manicurist? Geez, things can go wrong with moles so easily, and dermatologists recommend leaving them alone unless they're in a place where they get irritated a lot. So glad you didn't get it removed. Let them be, but do get them checked by a dermatologist periodically. OP, to be fair, med spa is a term for a plastic surgery center. They do a whole range of small plastic surgery, and a licensed plastic surgeon would have been doing the actual removal of the mole. My waxer was just prepping the equipment for the surgeon. I began going there for laser hair removal of my armpits as a teenager. After having a bad waxing experience at a normal salon, I decided to stick with the med spa because it felt a lot more professional and cleaner. I have no plans on getting it removed by anyone though. I'll definitely be leaving it where it belongs, ha ha ha. Sabra J. Brew, what the hell? I understand some people are squeamish about moles and other skin defects, but he hasn't expressed that. You asked him about it, already confirmed you're not interested in removing it. He said it's not an issue and then this. I would be pissed as well. I have a low tolerance for stunts like this, and personally I would walk. He's blatantly ignored your wishes, and I guess he was hoping that you'd either A, be so happy and grateful that your BF wants to make you better, gag, or B, you've realized how much he doesn't like it, and out of embarrassment or the duty of being a good GF would go through with it. Good riddance to that $200 jerk. OOP. The thing that sucks is that I considered the second option for longer than I'd like to admit. I suddenly felt very ashamed and ugly and like it needed to be fixed. I started crying a little and felt so stupid. Now that I've had a few hours to think about it, I think I'm most upset at how it made me feel. Now, for the update. First off, I just wanted to thank everyone for their support and validation of what I was feeling. I was second guessing myself and feeling like I was overreacting, but after more reflection and what happened later on in the evening, I feel so vindicated in my anger. I got home and he nonchalantly asked me how my appointment went. I managed to stay calm and told him how angry I was that he had tried to arrange for the mole to be removed without my consent knowledge, especially because I found out that he was informed while booking the appointment that it would involve anesthetic and stitches. He said that he wasn't sorry because he thought he was doing me a favor by forcing me to bite the bullet and get it done. He said the only thing that he was sorry about was signing my name on the waiver because he knows he should not have done that. Record scratch, wait, what? At my appointment, my waxer had said something along the lines of, "But you signed the waiver?" When I was blindsided by her prepping for the mole removal. She was confused that I was not aware of the mole removal plan. I had assumed she was talking about the waiver I had signed just a few weeks ago that I have to sign every year for my services performed at the med spa. I was in a hurry to get out of there, so I didn't press further, just made it clear that I did not want a mole removal and gathered my clothes and left. As it turns out, she was not talking about the annual general waiver. When my boyfriend booked the appointment, a waiver was emailed over, which he signed as me and sent back to them. We are in a South American country where plastic surgery is extremely common. I am the only woman in my office without breast implants. I was born in America and haven't quite subscribed to this aspect of the culture, so things are a lot more lax here than I imagined they are in the US. So not only did he schedule and pay for plastic surgery on my vagina, he forged my signature on a legal document giving permission for it to be done. There is no coming back from this, and I told him so. He started crying and saying that he just wanted me to be the most beautiful I could be. Thankfully, I was too angry to cry in front of him, and I just told him to leave. He packed some clothes, and I put the rest of his belongings in a detached garage that he has a key to. I made him leave his house keys and told him that the garage locks would be changed by the end of the week. I own the house and am changing the locks on the doors this evening, except for the garage. I'm giving him this week to clear out the rest of his things from there. I have him blocked on social media and feel very refreshed, like a weight has been lifted. I'm sure I will be hurting later and missing him, but this showed me a side of him that I absolutely cannot live with. I may not be as tan or as smooth or as busty as all the women around here, but I deserve better. I know that much. And now, my mole and I are going to settle down with a bottle of of wine and download Tinder. Thank you again for everything. Comments OP replies. OOP, he's always chuckled at my aversion, his words not mine, to plastic surgery because it's so common here. He's asked in the past if I would ever consider breast implants or a nose job, etc. in the exact same way that he asked if I would ever get my mole removed. I'm not morally opposed to plastic surgery. I just never really thought there was anything wrong with my boobs or my nose. So I feel like this was the tip of the iceberg. I feel like this was him pushing limits to see if he could convince me to change these other things. So I'm not feeling too great at the moment and kind of feeling like I can't tread water with all these gorgeous women. Play haha. And I think it's just different cultural beauty ideals. I grew up in America, but have been in Brazil for 6 years. I go back to the upper west coast of the US for about 3 weeks once a year. And I can tell that I'm a lot cuter there than I am here. If that makes sense, ha ha ha. The heavily enforced beauty ideal here is like Kim Kardashian if she were in Baywatch. My American friends I've told this to have been outraged. My Brazilian friends just kind of laughed and said they wish that their boyfriends would pay for their procedures, lip fillers, etc. I feel like I'm in the twilight zone occasionally, which probably contributed to me doubting the validity of my initial anger. Cozy, for what it's worth, I know a few Americans that have worked in South Korea, and the beauty standards that exist there can be a nightmare. If it helps, you should always remind yourself that, from what you've said, many of the women you compare yourself to likely didn't get there by natural means. OOP, I have a friend who teaches in South Korea, and I've heard that as well. Down here, it's all tanning beds, butt fillers, and rib removals. I'm petite, slender, and pale, so I get asked if I'm sick almost daily. Ha ha ha. Story 3. Am I the asshole for leaving in the middle of Thanksgiving dinner because of pumpkin pie? My 32 female mother, 60 female, hosts Thanksgiving dinner at her house every year. It's a small event with my parents, me, my brother's family, and my sister-in-law family attending. We avoid family quarrels by implementing a strict no politics rule and trying our best to be civil. I should probably mention that we are not a particularly close-knit family. We rarely see each other beyond these events since my brother lives in South Africa and I travel a lot due to my work. Thanksgiving is important to my mom since it's one of the rare times we're all together. Anyway, the main problem I have with my mother is her constant critique of me. She has a habit of making passive-aggressive comments about my life choices, from my career to my lack of children to the way I dress. I've addressed this with her multiple times, but she doesn't really seem aware of it. My father claims it is just her way of fussing and expressing that she cares. It does hurt though, because my brother is never criticized in the same manner. I cannot entirely fault her for her criticism, since I did majorly mess up my life a few months ago, depression, and it has affected her opinion of me negatively. It does not excuse the way I acted, but I just wanted to explain why I left. By the time we finished dinner, I was a bit prickly because of some of her commentary. I made a cake for dessert. I was explicitly put in charge of it, and no one specified what exactly I should make, so I opted for maple cheesecake. I did my best, and I think it looked okay. Mom normally makes pumpkin pie, but I really hate pumpkins. They make me gag, so I thought perhaps we could try something new. As I was bringing out the cheesecake, my mom eyed it somewhat warily and announced that she decided to make the usual pie as well. This caught me off guard. I asked why she didn't tell me beforehand, and she said something like, well, we figured your own thing, so I thought it was best to have a backup. She went on to cut the pie and serve it to everyone, instructing me to leave the cheesecake in the kitchen. When someone asked to try my dessert, she said, let's not mix too many flavors at once, which just felt passive-aggressive. I know it's immature for an adult to get this upset over a triviality, but I just politely refused as she was handing me a slice of pie, retrieved my coat, and left. People were calling after me, I think, but by that point I was crying for some reason, and it would have been too humiliating to have an emotional outburst in front of everyone for no real reason. My mom just texted me saying that it was incredibly rude and immature of me to leave like that, especially on Thanksgiving. My brother also sent me a message saying, I'm acting irrationally. I feel horrible for leaving so abruptly, especially because my parents are getting older and we are already not close. Something about my mother seems to turn me into a neurotic teenager and I hate it. Now, for the comments. Kuroko menu. Not the asshole if your mother's way of fussing and expressing that she cares, looks, sounds, and feels like she's being a deliberately nasty person, then I'm guessing she is really just being a deliberately nasty person. Walks like a duck and all that. I tell your father this. Your mother premeditated the whole dessert thing right down to the kick in the teeth of excluding the dessert you made from the table. She got off on being cruel in this petty way for whatever warped reason. This kind of thing is no accident and does not care in any way. Golden Boy brother can't see it because he is never the target. Dad is trying to see it through the best possible lens. Your mother won't admit to herself what she is really doing, even as she deliberately does it. Their blindness doesn't mean she isn't doing it. Audio Addict 321. Not just excluding it from the dinner table, but actively telling someone trying to eat the damn cheesecake they can't. OP, the only reason you don't know with absolute certainty that your mother is the asshole here is because you are used to her abuse. I wouldn't be surprised if your depression were directly tied to the way she diminishes you, and your brother do nothing about it. And are you able to go to therapy? Therapy is literally a person to talk to who can give you an outside perspective and whose only interest is helping you decide how you want to act, protect yourself, etc. regarding the things happening around you and rattling around in your head. OP, I'm so sorry your family has failed you here. Lily 11707. I consider the entire Thanksgiving meal mid, except at the end where we eat small servings of all the desserts all on one plate. Even if there are just a few of us, there are multiple desserts. OP mother is an ass. The father and brother are enablers. The only thing I would have done differently is that I would have stopped in the kitchen on my way out and taken my cheesecake with me. Infinitiari. If I were a guest, I'd be pissed as hell if someone told me I had to eat a mid-pumpkin pie, and let's admit, most of them are when there was maple cheesecake available.